Thank you for listening. This is the Wyoming Photographic Podcast. All things photography from the state of Wyoming, featuring Wyoming-based photographers as well as photographers who travel from all over the world to photograph this wonderful state. I am your host, Jeff Footer, and we have an amazing show in store for you. Today we've got Rebecca Brantz with us. Rebecca, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem. Thanks for being a guest on here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Rebecca. I'm the owner of Paintbrush Photography. I've been operating for 2 years now, and I kind of specialize in the natural light portrait photography. I'm a fifth generation Wyomingite, and so I really specialize in bringing that like Wyoming aspect to all of my photography. That's what I like to specialize in.
How long have you been doing photography?
I think every photographer can say that they've had a camera in their hands like their entire lives, but I think professionally 2 years for sure. But I think I really started taking it serious like my senior year of high school, and it was still like landscapes and all of those things that like Wyoming people take pictures of. But I finally started playing with portraits 2 years ago, and I haven't looked back.
All right, where do you like to go in and around Wyoming to take photos?
I really like to go into those surrounding mountain ranges. Powell is where I'm located, and it's like the perfect central location for all of the like bear tooths and the bighorns and all of that sort of stuff. So probably the mountains.
Who is your favorite photographer out there?
All of the people that I came up with are no longer with us. I really look up to Robert Mapplethorpe, Ansel Adams, and Irving Penn.
What are your biggest concerns and fears prior to a photo session?
Probably just making sure that my equipment is set up. I have like a religious routine that I go through, that I double check and make sure I've got 2 SD cards in my camera. I've got 2 batteries. I will double check that a million times, and I just will still not feel prepared. That's like my biggest fear.
And what kind of gear do you use?
I shoot Nikon. I have a D780, and my favorite lens to shoot portraits is my Prime 85 1.8 or my 24 to 120. That's a f4 lens.
What's the best photo you've ever taken, and can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, this is a hard question because it's like asking you to pick your favorite child.
You're not the only one I've heard that exact same thing from.
I don't believe that. Just kidding. I'm sure. I picked a portrait that I took at a wedding this summer. I was helping this bride get ready at the Wyo Wild Horse Ranch up the South Fork. And we were in this cabin. It was tiny, it was cramped, and I had been with them all day. And I happened to get a picture of her while she was like putting her earring in. And I bounced the flash off of the ceiling, and she's got this beautiful butterfly lighting underneath her nose. And it kind of reminds me of like that Irving Penn, Robert Mapplethorpe, where just like it looks like you're right in front of her, and it looks like she's completely unbothered by the fact that I was right in front of her with my flash. And it's my favorite one by far.
And how did you get so good at photography?
If I were to be so bold as to say I'm good at it, it was a lot of screw ups and practicing. And I am currently pursuing a degree in photography to learn all the technical science stuff behind it. And so the biggest thing is learning from mentors and being willing to screw up a lot.
That's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
And how do you convey mood in your photos?
My favorite way to convey that is with light harshness or the lack thereof, and then color. A huge stylistic choice of mine is color, and I think that you can really change the way people perceive a situation or even a person by how you pick color, and so I think that's probably my favorite part.
Now, if you could go back to when you first started and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Just to be a little bit easier on myself, probably. I'm really type A, and I want to grow so fast. And maybe the biggest piece of advice I would give myself is that you can grow slow, and slow growth is actually a good thing.
What's your opinion about black and whites as opposed to color?
I love black and whites. And if you look up Robert Mapplethorpe, Ansel Adams, and Irving Penn, all of their stuff is in black and white. And my favorite image is actually in black and white as well. I love 35 millimeter film, and I think that especially how I like to convey things with color, which is a little ironic. But if there's colors that I just feel are distracting or that convey something that I don't want to, I will always put it in black and white. And it just gives a nostalgic feel to it. And the color creates a mood, and the lack thereof also creates a mood. So I'm all for it.
Good, and I still shoot film once in a while, so I'm glad to see that there's other people out there that do as well.
Yeah.
What type of photos do you typically prefer, whether they're posed, candid, or creative?
I do all sorts of those three. I like to do I'm a portrait photographer, obviously. So in a session, I do like to have some post ones, like safe pictures that grandma will like when she prints them and puts them on her wall. And then obviously people want to come and take pictures as an experience as well. So I love doing prompted poses. So you give them a prompt and it feels more candid, but it's not just straight telling them to go do whatever they want and I'll take pictures. In weddings, I really do love that candid element of just like being the fly on the wall and letting things happen and capturing the beauty of it. So I equally love them all in their own little context.
What social media channels do you use most often? What do you prefer?
Yeah, I'm 22 years old, so I do prefer Instagram. I didn't have any social media until I started my business actually, so that was a steep learning curve, but Instagram would probably my like top personally. I'm pretty active on it for my business. And then Facebook, I really do like that from a business standpoint. So probably those two.
What's the best compliment you've ever received for a photo?
Oh, my professor told me he's a pretty tough critic and in the best way possible. He makes you grow so much. But he told me that I should frame that picture and put it up on my wall. And I knew that that was probably the highest compliment that I could receive from him. And so just probably because of who it came from, I was super happy with that.
Yep, absolutely. What does your typical routine look like?
So my regular routine would be I wake up pretty early. I pack a lot in one day usually. I'm a student and then I am a part-time employee. And then I also run a photography business currently. So I wake up early. I try to give myself some time to just be a human being. And then I generally go to work before I go to class. And then the afternoons usually consist of creating media content for my social medias, editing images, delivering galleries, and then obviously my photo shoots. They're generally in the evenings.
What software do you use to edit your photos, and how much time do you typically take to do so?
I import and catalog all of my images in Lightroom Classic. And then any additional touch-ups I do in Photoshop. And that's generally just how I do that. I am usually editing for 2 to 3 hours per 1 hour of photographing. And so it kind of depends, but that's kind of a rough estimate.
What would you consider your biggest photographic failure, and what did you learn from that experience, and how did you overcome that?
My biggest photographic failure wasn't necessarily with my camera. There's a lot of ethics and a lot of business practices that come with owning a photography business. And I was a second photographer for a wedding photographer in our area. And I didn't really understand just kind of the ethics and how that worked. And I posted a picture that I had gathered at that wedding. And I had no clue. And looking back on it, it made no sense. But I just didn't even think that that would be an issue. And the photographer was so kind and was like, hey, like, I haven't even given the gallery to that customer. Do you mind taking that down? And I just like face palm. Like, obviously, I shouldn't have posted it. And I remember crying for like 5 hours because I was humiliated and I just felt like I had let that person down and I just didn't know better. So it made me really think about the ethics behind everything. And luckily I was able to overcome it. But that day I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never going to be a photographer. I just ruined my entire career.
Well, and the best thing is it makes you think about it for every time sequentially. So, yeah, it's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
What other items, what other essential items do you take with you when you go on a photo shoot other than your camera and lenses?
I always make sure that I have a safety clip and at least one safety clip. And then I generally have like food or something like that. I have used that safety clip so many times in so many different sessions and weddings. And I also really believe that as a photographer, it's your job to make sure that you're fit for the job you're doing. So if you're dehydrated or if you don't have food, if you're hungry, like that's your job. And if somebody hired you to be there to capture that moment, you better be ready for it. So those are my two things that I make sure I always have.
What questions do you always ask yourself whenever you take a picture?
Yeah, I initially will compose it and just figure out where the subject is, which way they're facing. And then I'll pick my light and make sure that I don't have any hot spots or anything like that. And then I always ask myself, what's in the frame? So I'll draw a square with my eyes around the edges of the frame to make sure I don't have any like garbage cans or any goofy things like that. And then I'll ask myself, is there anything coming out of the subject's head? If there's trees, power lines, anything like that that comes out of the top of their head, it always kills you, and you've always got to edit it out in post. So those are some of the things that I think about when I'm doing that.
What are your thoughts on AI and how it affects photography?
I was unsure about how to answer this, and then I was editing last night, and I realized that there's AI everywhere in Lightroom. I use it constantly. There's the AI masking and there's the AI denoise feature now in Lightroom. So I would say that I definitely use the denoise and then the auto selections that they have in Lightroom. Lindsay Adler, I didn't mention her. She's a fantastic fashion photographer in New York. And she has done these photographs where she has the AI inspired image and then recreates that with her own skill and craft. And so I think AI is an awesome creative tool to assist creators. And the cynic in me hopes that it doesn't take our jobs. And the half glass full side of me says that it'll help us be better and do better things.
Oh, good attitude towards it. My biggest concern are the AI copyright removers. That and a
Oh,
lot of them are free, so somebody can take your work and just remove the copyright. And like, I'm not paying for this, so I
oh
don't
wow.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
That's concerning to me. But otherwise, yeah, there's a lot of great things about it that I like. And how would listeners go about finding your work?
I have my work posted on my website. You can find me at paintbrush-photography.com. That's all undercase. I post pretty regularly on Instagram, and that is paintbrush underscore photography. And on Facebook as well, where you can find me at paintbrush photography 307.
Okay, great. And it was really good having you on today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll hopefully you can be back at one point or another. And
That'd
we'll,
be great. Thank you for having me.
all right, you have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
This has been the Wyoming Photographic Podcast, all things photography in the state of Wyoming. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.